thought about something. I thought about it earlier, but I was listening to somebody who was talking about how our expectations of other people will disappoint us. And how, somebody not doing something for us, we can get stuck on that, like different people who didn't do things, didn't return favors, didn't whatever. Like we had an expectation and they did not meet it. And the message was basically, you can't expect people with limitations to do what you've done for them. And what the person was saying is right. You really can't have some unrealistic expectations, and the truth is that you have to become aware of people's limitations. So people that are close to you, you have to be discerning of what their limitations are based off of their mindset and who they are, what they're capable of, what they're not capable of. I agree with that statement. What I didn't agree with is the fact that, they mentioned being the strong one and expecting other people to be strong and they're not. And the example that was given is something out of the Bible where Jesus was sleeping and the boat, they were out on a boat and it was storming and they fell asleep and Jesus had to wake up and take care of something. I think that's how the story went. I don't remember. I think they were on a boat though. And his disciples, they just were weak and they couldn't keep an eye out. They couldn't stay awake. And that's a problem for me. I don't agree with the statement that it almost came at the angle of basically expect people to be weak-minded, and if you do something, don't expect anything in return. I think that's bullshit. Excuse me, but I do. I think that sometimes you will do things for people and you'll know that they're not able to do those things for you. I agree with that. There's sometimes you're going to help people and they're just not capable of returning whatever it was that you did for them. But it almost gave the angle, like it's sounding like, as if you need to sacrifice yourself and expect people to just basically be shitty and you're just supposed to be the superhero of everybody's story and it's okay for them to be weak while you're strong. No, that's not okay. If you have people around you and they are never reciprocating, they are never showing up for you, or they're half-assing it, they're giving you minimum, people are actually more capable than they think they are. Now, some people will be limited in their mindset, and sometimes they will limit themselves in thinking what they actually are capable of, but you cannot tell me that people are going to be aware that there's going to be a time where you are in need, and you're going to need some support in those times. And there's going to be times where other people that are close to you are going to go through some hard times and they're going to need some support. It has to be a two-way street. It doesn't mean that you have to be exactly the same as them. Like, there's going to be, everybody has their own limitations. So some people are weaker in areas than others. So sometimes you have to have multiple people that are stronger in certain areas than others. Like maybe you have somebody who's more emotionally in tune and intelligent than somebody over here that you have in your life that's more physically strong, but they're not necessarily emotionally. Maybe you need to have multiple people around you. But if they are weak-minded, they are not showing up for you, and they are expecting you to be their source. They are expecting you to show up for them. That is taking advantage of you. And maybe you are a responsible, strong person that generally people can rely on you. If you're not surrounded by people, you don't have 2 or 3 people to call on, or a person to call on who is ever able to be there, just an emotional support, Maybe you need somebody who physically can help you. There's going to be times where you're not Superman, okay? And you can't sacrifice yourself to be everybody's Superman all the time. And people ought to know that if they're going to be a part of your life, that it is expected for them to show up. It is expected for them to be able to be leaned on at times. It is expected of something out of them. Now, they will have their limitations in certain areas, just like I explained. Some people are more emotionally intelligent and they can give the emotional support. Some people are physically strong, but they're not necessarily emotionally in tune, but they're mentally intelligent and they're physically strong. That's okay. But if they're not showing up for you in some kind of a way, that's basically you're being used. And the angle of that video that I was reviewing, it's like telling people don't have expectations of anybody. Actually, if they're going to be in a close relationship, a friendship, a family member, a romantic partner, if those people are wanting to be a part of your daily life, they ought to expect that there is an expectation for them to show up. To not have expectations of people who are going to be close to you is an ignorant statement, in my opinion. Because why would you want a liability if you're an asset? Why would you surround yourself with people who are nothing but liabilities and they drain you and they suck you dry and you have no one else to depend on? I've been there. I've been the strong person. I've been there for other people. And I look back and I see that they just weren't capable of being who I needed, but it was my responsibility to choose somebody who had the capability of being there when I needed them, not necessarily leaning on them for everything I needed. I'm just saying at the time of need that I had, I needed to have evaluated them up front to see if they were going to be a liability or an asset to me, to know whether or not this person was going to show up. But don't ever let somebody tell you that to be all of service and to expect nothing in return, that is being taken advantage of. And a lot of times people are constantly wanting to preach that you should do for people. You can't do for everybody. Hate to break it to some people that burst the little bubble, but you can't do for everybody else and be depleted and not expect anybody to help you, not expect anybody to be there for you. That is not okay. I do not like this generation where it's all about doing for other people, but you're not supposed to have expectations of other people. If you're not a part of my close life, I don't have an expectation for you to be anything to me. But if you want to be a part of, have a close relationship, whether it's a friendship or a romantic partner, you damn sure better know that there's going to be some expectations. And if you can't meet reasonable expectations that any human being would need, you need to get the hell up on out of here. And I want to talk to some people who have been overly sacrificing themselves. I've done it in the past, who are having people think that you're supposed to be their source of emotional support. You're supposed to be their source of whatever the hell that they think they lack in. And they can't help themselves. And when you need something and you're the kind of person that really doesn't ask for help, or you really are not that demanding, and other people act like them doing the bare minimum is what I would say, act like that's too much, they need to get the hell up on out of here. People are making excuses. Life is hard, and I've been through some hard things, and I'm not a weak-minded person, but there's some people who make excuses because they're just lazy. They're just selfish. There's going to be people that are in positions where they're not financially, in certain situations to help you out. That I understand. When you're in situations and you just don't have the means to help somebody, that's different. But people out here making excuses where they can't emotionally be supportive to somebody, they can't, help somebody when they have the capability, they're just being selfish. They're just being their selfish way. It's not about them being unable. It's just that's them being selfish, which a lot of people are. I see it all the time. Do not be making excuses for these people. You don't have to get in their face and scream, but they damn sure shouldn't be in your life, all up in your closeness, and expecting you to just allow them to be lazy and unsupportive and not there. What good are they there for? They can go and find somebody else who is willing to be used and taken advantage of. But I want to speak to some people to empower themselves that you don't need to feel guilty for cutting off family members, for cutting off people out of friendships, for cutting off partnerships where you're not getting any return. You're just engaged in a liability with somebody who makes excuses, somebody who doesn't want to show up, somebody who is there to gain, but they're not there to give at all. You know, I think it was Chris Rock, I believe it was Chris Rock, where he was making a comedy skit where he was saying, you know, when you're in a relationship, you're in the service business. And it's kind of true. If you're a family member or you're a friend or whatever, there's going to be times when you give and there's going to be times when you take. But it damn sure better not be all the times that you're giving and you get nothing back. And I'm tired of people trying to present as if you are supposed to overextend yourself and not expect people to do anything for you at all, ever. They may not be able to give you exactly what you gave them. They may not be able to deliver it the way that you delivered it. But if they're not making an effort, if they're not giving at all, they're not showing up for you, even if it's not up to the highest standard that you would have, if they're not giving you what should be expected in a friendship, what should be expected in a romantic partner, what should be expected if someone wanted to be in a close relationship with you, they need to see the door. You need to show them the door, because all you are going to be is frustrated and exhausted and taken from. And that shit's not okay. We live in a society where people want to brainwash people into thinking that you're supposed to give everything and everybody's supposed to take. That is the absolute most bullshit lie I've ever heard in my life. And coming from a family of people who were brainwashed into giving all of themselves for someone who was never satisfied and drained the shit out of them, I speak from experience. Do not be out here giving all yourself to family members and friends and partnerships where people are not giving you what you deserve. Yes, people have limitations, but if they're not treating you the way you deserve to be treated, they're not showing up even with their limitations. Kick their ass out.